Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of now. I'm Alex Mahajer, and it is Wednesday, February 10th. This morning, we're going into impeachment trial, day 2. And on this morning's show, we're going to cover the first day of the hearing, the biggest takeaways, and the most odd moments. We're going to talk about Jamie Raskin's performance, the very rambling, meandering performance of Donald Trump's defense attorneys, which apparently pissed off even the president himself, and cover some of today's top headlines. All of this and more this morning on the AM Report. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the AM Report. I'm Alex Mahajer. Thank you for joining this morning. If you're watching on the HAPS app, website, or platform, click the award button like Mark Goldman. Thanks, Mark. With the Appreciate You Award, it'll pop up live right here on the screen. Or if you're watching on Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, leave a comment and we'll bat around live on air. Good morning, Mark Goldman from Los Angeles. Good morning to Renee from Johnstown. Good to see you all this morning. I love seeing people chiming in from across the country and across the world. It's nice to see you all. My daughter, Jose Serrato, says, Happy Impeachment, Part 2, Day 2. That's right. Today is Impeachment Day 2. And we've got a lot to cover this morning, but please leave me a comment as we go through the broadcast and let me know what your thoughts are of Day 1, what you're looking forward to Day 2, what you're hoping to see, what you did feel like you didn't see. Give me your thoughts, and we will bat around with one another. Let's see here. First and foremost, the majority of Americans support conviction. That's what we're learning as we go into Day 2 of the hearing. In a CBS News poll that was released yesterday, 56% of the respondents said they supported conviction. An ABC Ipsos poll showed an exact same finding, that 56% said that he should be convicted and barred from office. Gallup found people favoring conviction by a margin of 52 to 45, which is basically a close to average of all of the polls. Now, why this is significant is that during Donald Trump's first impeachment trial, this was last year, well, 2019 now, okay? So during the first impeachment, the support for conviction hovered somewhere around 47% the entire time. So this is a significant change. Now we've gone from being just slightly under the majority to having the majority of Americans saying there was clear, irrefutable evidence that the man incited an insurrection at the Capitol. And that was the presentation that was made yesterday in the first day of the impeachment hearings. Now, I'm going to try to do my best here to give you guys a summary. Now, the Democratic House impeachment managers gave a very skilled, very organized, irrefutable performance by any standard. So much so that Donald Trump's defense attorneys even commented on what a great job they did, and that it seems to throw them off their games. They weren't prepared for what they saw out of the House impeachment managers, which was first of all, a 13-minute video presentation, which directly correlated Donald Trump's statements that day and then the violence that happened at the Capitol directly during and after his speech. And it was extremely damning. And for anyone who's interested, right after this broadcast, I will post the full impeachment manager video of the opening day to the HAPS website. So haps.tv/@Alex, if you're interested in watching the full impeachment first day opening video of the House impeachment manager. So Jamie Raskin, Congressman Jamie Raskin, also the leading impeachment manager, gave a pretty personal and emotional opening argument where he closed by talking about his own personal experience on that day. And Congressman Raskin recently suffered the passing of his 25-year-old son in December, and a day after his funeral was at the Capitol on January 6th with his family, who he wanted to be close with him so that they could observe this peaceful transfer of power, and because they've been through a lot personally. And this is Jamie Raskin appealing to our hearts yesterday. I want to show you this clip of his impassioned and his very emotional, tearful presentation. It got me. Let me know what you guys thought of it after this.
I told my daughter Tabitha, who's 24 and a brilliant algebra teacher in Teach for America. Now, I told her how sorry I was, and I promised her that it would not be like this again the next time she came back to the Capitol with me. And you know what she said? She said, "Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol." Of all the terrible, brutal things I saw and I heard on that day, and since then, that one hit me the hardest. That and watching someone use an American flagpole, with the flag still on it, to spear and pummel one of our police officers ruthlessly, mercilessly, tortured by a pole.
That's Congressman Jamie Raskin. We got a comment from Barbara Williams saying, "Just want Americans to be over Donald Trump or ever forget he's only for himself." Renee Barone saying it was very touching. His family has been through hell. What did you guys think of Jamie Raskin's opening arguments yesterday, and speaking in no uncertain emotional terms about his personal experience? I feel like we have talked a lot about the facts over the last few years and the truth, and maybe it's going to take a little bit of speaking from the heart and appealing to people's hearts during a time where we've become so polarized and we've stopped looking at each other as human beings. I think it was really very important, actually, for Jamie Raskin to bare his soul, and it's something that we require. I would like to just say, as a feminist, it's something we require of women a lot, to bare their souls like that, and to just have to bear the brunt of their painful personal experiences in order for us to get any movement on the issues that matter. And to have a man do that was a nice change. To have him open up that way was sort of a different cue. OK Economics thinks, "I think that Stash runs the show. Carry on with the business." Thank you so much, my Stash. Thanks you, sir. Appreciate that. And man, if I had a nickel for every comment I got on this, I don't know. Wish I had. Yeah. So Rapman Jones says people's hearts have no bearing on the constitutionality of an impeachment. Now, good point. Thanks for bringing that up. People's hearts have no bearing on the constitutionality of an impeachment. And the Senate did vote yesterday as a part of their first order of business to decide whether or not this hearing was constitutional and they should move forward. And only 6 Senate Republicans voted to proceed with the trial on the merits as it pertains to its constitutionality. Okay, so a vote regarding the constitutionality of the impeachment trial showed little Republican support for conviction. Conviction seems unlikely because of this, but it was telling that 6 Republicans did cross party lines to say we need to move forward with this, that this is constitutional. Now, this isn't necessarily a gauge of who's going to vote to ultimately support conviction, because as we know, Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate Minority Leader, is privately saying that he thinks this should be a vote of conscience, and that he's pleased that Democrats have voted to impeach and initiated this impeachment trial, but publicly voting that this trial is unconstitutional. So Mitch McConnell not making a ton of sense. It seems like he supports this proceeding privately, not publicly. But either way, the U.S. Senate has found that this is constitutional, and that only 6 Republican senators voted to support the constitutionality of the hearing is not exactly a finding of law. I think most constitutional scholars, we've had Miranda Yavor on this very broadcast, who said in no uncertain terms that this trial is constitutional, that there is plenty of case precedents to illustrate the constitutionality of impeaching a federal official after they've left office, because there is a second part to the impeachment powers of Congress that empowers them to strip former officials of the future of the perks of being a former official. So this is a constitutional hearing that Republicans are punting on constitutionality, at least the majority of them, has nothing to do with whether or not it actually is constitutional. And that's, I don't remember your screen name, Ratman Jones. They're hardly Republicans if you watch their votes. What is the breakdown of public support between Republicans and Democrats? Asks Mark Goldman. I think it's interesting to know that this does split almost directly down party lines, but overall support has moved from 47% to 56%, meaning that at least most Democrats support this conviction, and at least some Republicans have come around, but not. It's pretty down split party lines in terms of overall support. Presidential impeachment is the only impeachment in the Constitution. No, Ratman Jones, that's not true. Impeachment is a process meant for any federal official. You can impeach Supreme Court justices. You can impeach anybody who holds federal office. It is not meant just for that purpose, for just the president. Trump is pissed off by the presentation of his defense lawyers to all this, because the Democrats and Jamie Raskin did such a great job that this threw his defense attorneys Bruce Castor and David Schoen off of their game, and they were acknowledging this during their actual presentations. And so, Donald Trump is pissed. The former president not happy with his lawyers' performances. He was reportedly watching from the first day of the impeachment from his Mar-a-Lago estate, and was nearly screaming at the television, according to the New York Times. And when his defense counsel, Bruce Castor, made a very rambling, incoherent presentation, and at one point acknowledged in his presentation that the Democrats had done a great job, acknowledged that they did such a great job. He wasn't expecting that. And let's hear a little bit of this performance by Bruce Castor was just skewered by Republicans, by Fox News, by people on social media. It was like an hour long, and people were ridiculing it from the get-go. And I'd like to show you a little bit of a supercut pulled together from a few different sources of Bruce Castor's truly odd performance yesterday. This is Donald Trump's defense attorney, Bruce Castor.
My name is Bruce Castor. I am the lead counsel for the 45th President of the United States, but I do understand the difference, Mr. Raskin. Manslaughter and murder. You could grow up to be a United States Senator. Congress shall make no law abridging all of these things, that they be convicted first. Nebraska, you're going to hear, is quite a judicial thinking place. Nixon to Ford, Ford to Carter, Carter to Reagan, Bush 41 to Clinton. That happens. I worked in this building 40 years ago. I got lost then, and I still do. I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done. We are generally a social people. We enjoy being around one another. Senators of the United States, they're not ordinary people. And boy, this is a diverse group. We still know what records are, right? On the thing you put the needle down on and you play it. I worked in this building 40 years ago. I got lost then, and I still do. I represent the great state of fill in the blank. I saw a headline, Representative so-and-so seeks to walk back comments about, I forget what it was, something that bothered her. I don't want to steal the thunder from the other lawyers, but Nebraska, you're going to hear, is quite a judicial thinking place. If the individual state legislatures didn't adopt the Constitution, we would not have it. The floodgates will open. As I was going to say originally, it will release the whirlwind. But I subsequently learned since I got here that that particular phrase has already been taken, so I figured I better change it to floodgates.
So there's Bruce Castor and his very odd performance, which apparently enraged the president a lot. Renee Barone asking, how did they not know about the video evidence? I think important to note that these attorneys were only hired a couple days ago because Donald Trump's original impeachment team quit en masse the weekend before this hearing because Donald Trump was still asking them to peddle the lie that the election was stolen as his defense strategy, and they all quit. So these guys have had basically no time to prepare. And you could tell Bruce Castor was like the guy that we all went to school. I went to law school with these guys. Maybe I was this guy in law school. That's something I'm going to have to reckon with later. But in any case, maybe that's why I can recognize it in Bruce Castor. But he's every guy that got up in law school who didn't prepare the night before and winged it. And yeah, lawyers, potential lawyers all over America yesterday thinking, hey, this can't be that hard. Maybe I should give it a try. And the interesting part of Bruce Castor's performance, and thank you for that question, Renee. Another question, interesting. Could the Senate do a secret vote to allow Republicans to save face? I think that this is a very interesting question. Now, this is something that would have needed to be arranged and organized as a part of the organizing resolution for how the impeachment trial would go. And this would have been up to Democratic Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to work out with Minority Leader Mitch McConnell as they came up with the rules of this hearing, which were done on Monday, and organized the presentation of the proceeding. So very interesting question. I think we would have a totally different outcome. That is not what's going to happen here. And I think there would be an equal amount of people who would be upset about the lack of transparency that would put forward. But either way, I think it's very interesting to know that we would probably get a very different outcome at the conclusion of this if it were a secret ballot. And very interesting thing to note about Bruce Castor's performance is he acknowledged during his opening argument that Donald Trump lost the election and that the voters had the choice at the ballot box to repudiate Trump's Trumpism and Trump, and acknowledges that they did, even though he is defending a man who is in this video evidence claiming that he won the election, and this incitement to violence was caused by his claims that he won the election. So Castor is they're not really able to mount into legal defense here, because you can't acknowledge the guy lost and defend his statement. I mean, you're basically saying he's a liar at best, and that his words didn't incite any kind of violence, that they weren't literal, even though you're acknowledging that they were lies. They were lies, but they didn't incite violence, is basically what the implication here is of Bruce Castor's strategy. Here's Bruce Castor basically saying he lost. Donald Trump lost. Here he is.
And the reason that I am having trouble with the argument is the American people just spoke, and they just changed administrations. So in the light most favorable to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle here, their system works. The people are smart enough, in the light most favorable to them, they're smart enough to pick a new administration if they don't like the old one. And they just did. And he's down there, Pennsylvania Avenue now, probably wondering, how come none of my stuff is happening up at the Capitol?
Ooh, I mean, if this is apparently the line that really pissed off Trump, this is the part where his aides close to Trump are saying on a scale of 1 to 10 that he was at an 8 in terms of his anger. And yeah, I mean, a HuffPost analysis showed that 100 times Donald Trump, between the election and the inauguration of Joe Biden, 100 times he publicly called the election a fraud or a stolen or lied about the election publicly. 100 times. So it's not just about the speech that was given at the White House the morning of the insurrection. It's also the fact that he'd been propagating lies for months in advance of this, really drumming up his supporters into a frenzy. And then once the actual insurrection started, and this was a point that was driven home by the first day of the impeachment hearing by the Democratic House managers. Once it started, he did very little to stop it. In fact, an hour in, he's tweeting anti-Mike Pence sentiments. A couple hours in, he releases a video where he calls the insurrectionists. He tells them that they are loved, that they are special. Calls the election fraudulent again. I mean, he really sowed the flames. And then at the end of this day, he tweeted that this is what happens when you steal an election from very fine people. So he doesn't get it. This guy doesn't get it. Okay. And it's not just the lies. Now we learned that today, Georgia, the state of Georgia, Georgia District in Fulton County, is investigating opening a criminal misconduct hearing trial in the aftermath of the election against Donald Trump. So the prosecutors in Fulton County have initiated a criminal investigation into Trump's attempts to overturn Georgia's election results, including the phone call he made to Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, to, quote, find enough votes to help him reverse his loss. So that's what's going on now with Trump, and Trump's defense attorneys acknowledging he lost the election in his presentation. So I think a lot of legal minds are thinking, oh, this does not look good for Trump, because he's going to mount contradictory defense strategies in the different legal proceedings that are now going to be mounted against him, including in defamation suits. We know that Smartmatic and Dominion Voting Systems have launched multi-billion-dollar defamation claims against people close to Trump and Trump's orbit for the lies that were spread about the election results. And now we've got Trump's attorney acknowledging that he lost the election. But these lies, these defamation suits, are being brought about the lie that he won the election. So you can't have it both ways, and very interesting to see how this all pans out. Now, what can we expect from day 2 of the impeachment trial? Today is day 2. The Democratic House managers will begin the 2-day presentation of their case in chief today at 12 p.m. Eastern. So very shortly here, in about 25 minutes, they'll get started, and will rely heavily on never before seen video footage. Apparently, their case in chief today will include some very damning video that's not been seen before. We will see that presentation starting today at noon. And of course, you can join us here on the AM Report tomorrow morning for a breakdown of everything that happened. This has been the AM Report for Haps News, the network of Now. I'm Alex Mahajer. We are live every weekday morning with all of your very quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it. You can become a monthly subscribing member, like Jose, like Daryl Archibald, Janet Miller, Ann Carlson, Adam Cobb, Pablo de la Hoya, all of the amazing Sarah Kalogly, all of the monthly subscribers. Or you can click the award button, let us know you're enjoying it, or just click subscribe and get a notification every morning when we go live. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the breakdown of the first full day of impeachment arguments. Thank you for joining, and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone.